Warsaw, October 1970. 22-year-old American pianist Garrick Ohlsson walks on stage to perform in the final round of the International Chopin competition. The concert is sold out, and the audience in Philharmonic Hall is spilling into the aisles. Ohlsson is one of the favorites among the finalists, and his nerves have built up after nearly 3 weeks of competition. He's now tasked with performing Chopin's E minor concerto with the Warsaw Philharmonic, and he tries to remain calm as he sits awaiting his entrance during the opening orchestral tutti. Unlike many of his Romantic-era contemporaries, Chopin took a more classical approach to piano concertos, letting the orchestra narrate the story first. I remember my first time listening to the E minor concerto as a teenager and being totally confused why there was no piano playing for several minutes. So while the orchestra is introducing some of the main themes of the movement, it's hard for a young soloist not to ponder the high stakes of the moment. And just as he's about to make his grand entrance, chords he's played 1,000 times in preparing for the competition, Ohlsson's focus slips.
As I got ready to play, I began to put my hands up, and I saw people staring at me through my elbow.
No.
Yeah. And I freeze.
These might seem like very slight missed notes, but to Ohlsson,
I made 2 incredible errors.
You have to understand that when a pianist is playing under Olympic-level conditions like this, the perception is that one slip on the balance beam could cost you a medal. Especially when you're competing against the likes of Japanese pianist Mitsuko Uchida, who would go on to win the silver medal at the 1970 Chopin competition. The margin for error is very small. But luckily, music is not the same as gymnastics, and Ohlsson's towering command and artistry prevailed over a handful of wrong notes. He went on to win the gold medal, the first American ever to take home first prize from Warsaw. And 55 years later, Ohlsson comes full circle, returning as chair of the jury of the 2025 International Chopin competition, where he'll help to select the 10 finalists required to perform one of Chopin's 2 concertos. Youthful works, replete with some of Chopin's most memorable melodies and glittery passage work. The concertos are the soundtrack to the final days of this nearly 3-week-long event, an emotional roller coaster through the greatest piano music ever composed, where 85 pianists are scrutinized for their accuracy, to be sure, but most of all, judged on their ability to project a singular identity in revealing the rich layers of genius in Chopin's music. Welcome to the Chopin Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Laude, and over the course of this series, we've taken a deep dive into the music of Frédéric Chopin, with episodes on each of Chopin's major compositional genres. And now we've reached the final major genre here in Season 2, Episode 6, Concertos. In this penultimate episode, I meet pianist Garrick Ohlsson in his home to explore Chopin's 2 large-scale works for piano and orchestra and relive his nerve-wracking final round performances from 1970. Then 2021 Chopin competition bronze medalist Martín García returns to the podcast to react to some of my favorite moments from his imaginative performance of the F minor concerto that won him the Concerto Prize. We're also lucky to be rejoined by University of Cambridge professor John Rink, who literally wrote the book on Chopin's concertos and will argue for the merits of what are sometimes dismissed as youthful showpieces. And finally, Jed Distler recommends some of the finest recordings of the 2 concertos made over the past century. You can listen to full episodes of the Chopin podcast on podcasting platforms the day of release, or watch video segments from each episode in the following days as they're posted to my YouTube channel. Just look up my name, Ben Laude. That's BenLaude. And if you enjoyed this video, you can support the Chopin podcast by simply liking and commenting on this video and subscribing to my channel, or leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or by joining my Patreon, where I've posted countless hours of bonus content with Chopin podcast guests. You can also head over to chopinpodcast.com to check out the show's new line of merch. Chopin Podcast stickers, Chopin Podcast coffee mugs, and of course, Chopin Podcast t-shirts that will let everyone know you're both fashionable and cultured. This series is produced in partnership with the Chopin Foundation of the United States, presenters of the National Chopin Competition in Miami, Florida every 5 years. I was thrilled to host the live streams of the Miami competition this past January, and I'm honored to have been invited to Warsaw in October to serve as one of the hosts of the Chopin Talk studio shows that are broadcast live throughout the 2025 international competition on the Chopin Institute's YouTube channel. The honorary chairman of the U.S. Chopin Foundation is none other than competition jury chair Garrick Ohlsson, who's been with us every step of the way during this podcast series. Garrick is one of the few pianists to ever record Chopin's complete works, published by the Hyperion label. Many of the recordings heard during this series are taken from that set. Digital downloads of the complete cycle are available for purchase on Hyperion's website. While Chopin composed primarily for solo piano, he did write a number of pieces for piano and orchestra, including his largest scale compositions, the 2 piano concertos, music that Garrick first learned 60 years ago.
I learned the F minor probably when I was about 17.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I began to realize how tricky Chopin is, because that's a real Chopin piece. I played the B-flat minor sonata and I'd played the third scherzo, and they're kind of biggie virtuoso pieces, but they didn't have all this butterfly stuff. And I thought I was doing quite fine until I had to play the F minor in a performance class with another pianist playing the accompaniment. And I was just paralyzed with fear, because each one of those things, you have to know what you're doing, you have to know where you're landing, you have to know where you're getting off. And
Right.
practice them all, and I got through it all right, but it was like, oh my God. I was sitting there thinking, which octave am I supposed to play in? And it was a big challenge. And I realized I didn't know the piece nearly well enough, although I was doing all right for a 17-year-old. It's interesting, you and I have discussed how similar the concertos are in many ways. We'll justify that presently. But the principal difference between the two of them is that the E minor is a lot more etude-y. You have lots more passages of Chopinesque, beautiful but difficult and etude-like 16th notes. For example, after you get the opening theme, you get... Then after the beautiful second theme, you get... for quite a long time, and it's very difficult. The development is all 16th notes except for a
non-stop
lyric, and it's hard. And the same thing happens later, and then the coda is... and horribly difficult, too. Basically, there are kind of 2 concerto types that evolved. One is the display concerto, file under Paganini, Liszt, Wieniawski, It's about the soloist singing and dancing for you or doing acrobatics for you. And then there's the sort of concerto that Mozart wrote and Beethoven developed and Brahms did and Schumann did, which is the symphonic chamber concerto, where you have, an active interrelation of all the ingredients which grew. And, that didn't go very far, and it probably ended with the Musonic concerto. But in any case, with Chopin, there was a genre at the time called the Concerto Militaire, which often had, it wasn't even that militaire, but if you look at the main theme of the F minor, it's often ba-bum, ba-bum, instead of... It's a little bit crisp. And in the main theme of the E minor, although we don't play it so crisply, but it's not some kind of mooning.
Right.
course, that's where it gets fancier and more Chopin-y. So that's one thing. And both of them have fast tempo marks. In the first movement, 126, I think maybe, I don't even know what it is for the F minor. I think it might be the same. 138, even faster. But as that conductor said when we were discussing maestoso before, well, the king is young and not fat and strides majestically through the corridors of the palace, but doesn't sort of, pompous it up. I fear the performances I've heard of these pieces, they see maestoso and it's kind of... And by that point, I'm already, oh no, this is difficult. I think it can be lyric. But that's me, and I'm not in charge of the world.
When I first heard Hummel's A minor concerto, it occurred to me that Chopin had real influences. He didn't just come up with everything by himself. There's such a similarity between how the material is just presented and develops between the Hummel A minor concerto and then Chopin's E minor, that it's clear he was working with just existing forms that he found effective.
I mean, it's almost like a young, brilliant student saying, "Oh, good, I've got the architecture." I mean,
exactly.
Well, 45 bars of this, and then this, and this, and a second theme, and now a bit of.
That was Hummel. Now, here's Chopin. And just so we get things straight, he did compose the F minor first. Chopin wanted to make his sort of public debuts with E minor concerto, so it was published first so he could get it out there. And then the F minor he ended up publishing later, even though it was conceived first. That's why the opus numbers are the way they are.
The characterology of the two concertos is somewhat different, especially in the first movement, because although you have similar motifs, the first one begins with this maestoso. When it settles down with this lyric theme, the theme stays in the same character. It's quite consistent, whereas the F minor shows a more emotional volatility in its personality altogether. For example, you might say that even though it's in minor, the very opening orchestral tutti, okay, what's that? But then what happens in the next three beats? Sinking Chopin chromaticism, another bar of it. Then it gets a little bit courageous. So it's in and out emotionally, as any number of people from the Slavic countries will say, yep, that's us. up and down and up and down, up and down. Whereas the E minor is a bit more pan-European, if you will. So, the whole character of the F minor first movement is not nearly so declamatory. I mean, it's got a spectacular entrance. The tutti actually slows down, and the piano enters strikingly on not a dominant. Calms down. It never dominates the orchestra and the scene the way the E minor does. So that's why I think maybe Chopin wanted the external brilliance of the E minor to be his calling card.
E minor does begin with a bang, at least in the piano part.
Enters like a king.
And can you tell us a little bit about how that went for you in 1970?
Well, I'll be delighted to. I don't mind a bit. If you've ever seen Golden Girls, you have to imagine, what's her name, the grandma. Picture it, Warsaw, 1970. There I am, clearly one of the lead favorites, one of the audience favorites, getting very good reviews, knowing that I'm sitting pretty well on this group of pianists after the 2 rounds we've had. And there are 12 of us, and we each have to play one of the Chopin concertos. So we have a rehearsal with Ravitsky, who is fabulous. I had been now in Warsaw for almost 3 weeks. You're under a lot of public scrutiny when you go out into the Krakow High Street, Krakowskie Przedmieście, or the Marszałkowska, all the big streets nearby. People stop you to talk to you, and they don't just say, "Oh, you play so nicely. Oh, how nice." It's, "Oh, the way you played the middle section of the C sharp minor reminds me of what my grandmother said used to do there."
It's very personal.
Yeah, it's really, it's like, oh my. So although it's wonderful, it's like intimidating. It's like everybody's next to
it. Everything you're playing matters on another level there, yeah.
And plus, the competition, of course, was sold out, as it is now. When I walked out on stage, there was not any floor visible. People were sitting on it. It was
sitting on the floor.
Only people and standing and sitting on the end, the last armrest of the chair in the aisle, and everybody and everywhere. And as I got ready to play, I began to put my hands up, and I saw people staring at me through my elbow.
No.
Yeah. And I just I freeze. And I got very tense, and I made 2 incredible errors. So I'll show you what.
Yeah, let's hear them.
They're live on a recording. I'm not making, or something like that.
Oof.
And my mother said I turned so red she thought I was going to have a stroke right then. She said I turned purple.
Was it good to get the wrong notes out of the way, or did you feel free after that, or what?
No, I felt guilty. I thought, oh God, I've just blown it. I've been working so hard for this thing. I've been here 3 weeks. I'm one of the favorites. I thought, it's gone for sure. I had a lot of discussions with myself while I was playing,
Oh, man.
And I just thought, I have to do better than I've ever done right now. I have to play with more love, and more beautiful sound, and more beautiful everything. I didn't know what that means, but you just...
I'm interested to listen now. Do we hear you playing more beautifully than ever after that because you're trying so hard to salvage the performance?
I don't know. But that was the second night. And the last night, my parents who were there took me out with a couple of people who we knew to one of the few very nice restaurants at the times. In the communist times, things were not so upscale. But in the old town, there was a very expensive nice old-fashioned restaurant. We went there, and my mother said she knew I was really nervous because I couldn't eat. And it was like, Garrick never can't eat. You just look at me, you can tell. I mean, if I'm happy, I eat. If I'm sad, I eat. If I'm nervous, I eat. If I'm not nervous, I eat. It's fine. Food is always a good thing. And I literally couldn't eat that night. And that was the night of the announcement. And we didn't obviously go to hear the finals, but we went to the hall afterwards, and the announcements waited a while. And there's always some delay with announcements and competitions, right? I mean, that's just typical.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's happening. So we walked up to where the jury room was, where the media were, and I got there and I heard, and third prize is Piotr Paleczny of Poland, and fourth prize and fifth prize is, and I just blurted out in my English, I said, who's first prize? And someone was saying,
So you missed it, or they were just reading from a list?
I missed the announcement on the radio.
Oh, wow.
It's fun.
What a relief. I mean,
Fun
just to feel
remember
that.
those things. I couldn't believe it. I was just, because I really thought there was no chance.
Just from that one little thing, yeah?
I mean, and now I realize as a member of a jury, when you've been listening to somebody that, the level they play.
Right.
Little things happen to everyone.
Especially when you can see people through your under your right arm.
Yeah, it was just
the energy in there must have also been incredible, though.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's
you probably never played anywhere else like that.
Through the whole no, still
literally you're not allowed to anymore. I mean, you can't sit on the floor like that.
No, they've got fire laws now and insurance.
Maybe one way of just touching on both concertos is to take us on a tour. Of a sightseeing tour of the main themes and any kinds of sort of comments or observations.
The great thing about both concertos are the tunes. And the E minor has some absolutely matchless tunes, including the first one, which I referenced before. Prime Chopin operatic bel canto, making the piano sing in that ornamented way that was practically unique to him, almost unique to him. And after that, then it calms down and what works up ahead of a steam, and it gets a little more difficult and, it gets louder and so on. And then at a dramatic point, the orchestra shuts up and the piano takes over. And the piano sings the second theme, which you've already heard in the orchestra. It's just lovable music, gorgeous, beautifully developed. The orchestra doesn't have much to do. in either concerto after the tuttis are over. As a matter of fact, I always say the better the orchestra plays in a Chopin concerto, the less you notice them. It doesn't mean they don't play, but it's just the more beautifully and more delicate and the more they're in tune with the soloist. After the noisy tutti, he calms down and gives us the same lyric theme with different decorations in major. Yeah, Chopin sounds great. Nothing like him. Then there's a lot more etudes.
Well, the development is nonstop, ceaseless 16ths or just running notes and chromatics.
All of which are as difficult as any of the etudes.
Amazing.
It's just...
Because it does have that almost Opus 10 number 1 kind of leapiness in some parts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's got all sorts of other little challenges. Mm-hmm. It's tough. And then you have a little bit more orchestral tutti. You get a recap of the beautiful opening theme, the beautiful transition, the beautiful second theme, and you get a fiery coda, which is really quite interesting pianistically because you have another voice underneath.
Tricky.
Yeah. I remember Mrs. Levine saying, about the third time around, bring out the second voice, It's good training.
Never heard anybody bring that out.
No, and then, on top of that, you have trills in the left end. So that takes practice, and then that takes coordination. It's horribly difficult. But then I think the reason for playing the
second movement is the most beautiful thing ever written.
Yeah, it's in E major. There is some music in minor, but it's mostly blissfully sweet. And I'll just play some of the tunes because it's gorgeous. So on. I mean, obviously, one of the great tunesmiths in all of music.
You stopped in the best part.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Bassoon. Anyway, it's all the nicest part. I mean, gorgeous.
It's perfect, yeah.
There's even a foretaste to the barcarolle in it at one point. Pretty nice. Gorgeous stuffing. There's a little episode in C sharp minor. It gets passionate. I mean, this whole movement is too beautiful. And there's one of the most gorgeous ornaments he ever wrote. I'll just play it out of context.
It's one of those runny, drippy Chopin things that only he could have written.
Only he. But then I want to say in defense of these pieces are very much criticized for their poor orchestration and for Chopin's general lack of interest in orchestras and orchestration. Well, he was 20, okay? Didn't, and it wasn't his thing ultimately anyway. But the coda has one of the great orchestrations of all time because you get the opening theme the piano sings in the strings. Most beautifully, with the most gorgeous decorations, and Berlioz couldn't do better than this coda. It's just simply incredible. The last movement is jolly. It's really nice. It's a rondo Krakow style. It's in two. Anyway, but it has a. It's a completely successful rondo. It's just nothing wrong with this at all, except that it's hideously difficult.
Show us a hard part.
Dum piddle dum piddle dum piddle dum piddle dum bum 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 bum. It's hideously difficult.
Well, we're all having fun listening to it, but the pianist is just sitting there, just like, okay, just sweating through it, sweating bullets.
Second theme, more sweating bullets, beautiful stuff all over the place, and it's a really happy movement, and it only gets happier. It's one of Chopin's rare, really happy movements. I mean, yeah, of course, there's an inclination of a cloud passing, but it doesn't. And at the end, I think he gets very Mozarty in a little chromatic way that is sensational. He has this great coda with emphasis on six. And he gets very lyric like Mozart.
You're listening to a performance of Chopin's E minor concerto from the 11th National Chopin Competition, given by third prize winner Nathaniel Zhang. The Miami competition was a huge hit, attracting over 300,000 YouTube views during the week-long event and sold-out final round concerts. It was my privilege to host the live streams on behalf of the Chopin Foundation and to interview so many of the talented competitors. Congratulations to all the prize winners, and especially to gold medalist William Yang and silver medalist Anthony Ratanoff, who earned automatic admission to the live rounds of the International Chopin Competition. They'll be joined by two other competitors from the U.S. competition, semifinalists Victoria Wong and Antony Kleczek. To relive their prize-winning performances from the national competition and all the other great playing and fun conversations that took place in Miami, make sure you're subscribed to the Chopin Foundation YouTube channel.
Now on to number 2, which you probably prefer and I probably prefer.
I do. I don't.
It's more.
Is that That's the right choice to prefer, right? I'm a deeper musician for thinking that. No, but I don't even know what it is. I just like it more. No, but I like them both. Obviously,
it's not quite as direct as the first, and as a performance piece, the finale doesn't wind the audience up the way that E minor does.
Sure.
Although it enchants the audience. I mean, these are both winner pieces. That's for sure. Shows its cards. Then it sets down to sing a lyric tune, but it isn't quite the same flowing kind of as in the E minor. It's wonderful. Anyway, it's gorgeous music. It sings on. And the passage work in this, while difficult, is much more melodic, I would say. In the E minor, you have a lot more external brilliance. Here it's more lyric. Anyway, it calms down. There's a beautiful statement by the very operatic ornament by the piano of the second theme. Once again, it's gorgeous, but it doesn't have that kind of long, everlasting line that some things in the first have. But I love it very much. There's a concluding section of some brilliance, but not the same kind of constant etude development. Then there's a tutti, then there's a beautiful development, but it really almost stops and starts a lot before it gets a little bit etude-y. I mean, it's once again, as in the Polonaise fantasy, it's almost as if he's changing his mind a lot. Di-dom, ba-da. It doesn't have a kind of direct movement.
The first concerto, the E minor's development is just a never-ending kind of machine.
Yeah, and then we have one of those here too, but not nearly as long. And the whole piece is much less long.
This music, you said, is the first that you heard of Chopin that had all this fiorituras and coloratura stuff. And it helps to remember that, I mean, how often do we bring up bel canto when we're talking about Chopin? Probably too much. But it did matter a lot. I hear these as little operas, and it helps me justify those opening tutti to just think of them as overtures, presenting the characters, and then the curtain rises. Really, there should be a curtain closed for this tutti, so they don't have to see the poor pianist sitting there twiddling their thumbs for 3 or 4 minutes. But especially the second movements, and especially this second movement, because there's just a straightforward dramatic recitative.
Was this movement not written because of his love for the singer Konstancja Gładkowska, I believe? I think he was in love with a singer at the conservatory in Warsaw, I believe. But this is an astounding piece. But before we get to your recitative, just the music, the opening line itself, there's too much to rave about. There are 6 glorious parts in the orchestra. But when the piano enters, and it sings this incredible coloratura aria. And so on and so on and so on. It's just an incredible dream world. I could say a lot about it, but I won't at the moment.
I think Incredible Dream World pretty much captures it.
Yeah, just wow. And the orchestra then gets very excited, and the piano sings a recitative just like in Bellini. So you have to practice that, shaping it like a singer, and it goes on for page after page. It's incredible. And who else could have written this? One of the best ornaments coming. I
We could just luxuriate in this music all day long, as far as I'm concerned.
I get too emotional playing this. Anyway, it ends incredibly, and then there's the mazurka for the last movement. It's beautiful, and it goes on. It has some filigree, but it's not as brilliant as the E minor in terms of sheer brilliance, but it's brilliant enough. And then there's a very charming second mazurka episode, which the violas and cellos have to play a real accent on the third beat, and the violins play with the wood of their bow. It sounds like skeletons. Anyway, it's gorgeous. It's wonderful. It's just gorgeous, and then he drags the whole thing into the major key. And the pianist picks it up.
In a Chopin competition rarity, the top two prize winners in Miami this past January, Anthony Ratanov and William Yang, both chose Chopin's F minor concerto over the more popular E minor. Now Anthony and William are headed to Warsaw, seeking to make the finals of the international competition and reprise their concerto performances for a chance at piano immortality. Follow their journeys from Miami to Warsaw by subscribing to the Chopin Foundation YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to my Patreon, where paying members have access to bonus scenes from my interviews with Garrick Ohlsson and other guests throughout the series, and where you'll also get a discount on the new line of Chopin podcast merch.